Thank you so much for joining us in a move to douse the tension rising from the fuel subsidy removal and the hike in electricity tariff. The federal government is saying that the hike in prices are not meant to inflict pains on Nigerians. This latest intervention by the vice president and the ministers will be the fourth since the PPPRA started jacking up the ex-depot price of petrol, pushing the pump price to the current 162 naira per litre. An electricity tariff taking more than double increments since the first day of this month. The presidency released a statement on Sunday attributing the hikes to economic challenges caused by COVID-19 pandemic. But the government of the federal government, the APC-led federal government, at this time is not the most popular federal government around right now because of the timing of this action. You know, by the time you explain to some people what is happening in the world market and everything, or what's a lot of Nigerians want to believe that, no, this is deliberate, and what you have here now is that the federal government has stopped, you know, subsidy. They've removed subsidy, and we are now buying 162, and there's a tendency that it might go up. It might not, might go up, it might go down.
Buhari has already told us that it could go up. So we should just be prepared for it.
So the one of electricity, so that the private investors, the guys running it, so that they can make profits and invest more in that sector. Jide, is not two strategic things to our lives: electricity and fuel.
The truth is, as for the removal of petroleum subsidy, I talked about it, about the need for it. I had encouraged the government to go ahead and remove the subsidy because of the corruption associated with it, and because we could easily find the funds that we need to fix infrastructure, critical infrastructure, if we stop spending as much as we have spent over the years on subsidy, petroleum subsidy. For example, it's just that I don't know how caring this government can be, and even the state governments. Once you remove subsidy, you free some funds for each of the states in the country. Nothing stops each of those states from saying, okay, I now get a lot more from the distributable revenue from the center and other outlets through which Nigeria makes money. Therefore, we are buying 50 Marco Polo buses to ease the pains of commuters from the quantum of money that will come to us as a result of the removal of petroleum subsidy. You look at how much we spend on petroleum subsidy. You spend trillions of naira on petroleum subsidy. A huge chunk of our money, of our revenue, goes to servicing the subsidy. This has been the case for years. Why did you wait this
long?
Well, it
has always been on the card. It has always been on the table. It was a campaign issue 2015, 2019.
But President Buhari even said at one point that he didn't believe that the subsidy was
there. Before he entered.
Yet he sustained it for 5 years.
Yes.
He said...
before he was elected,
who is subsidizing who?
Yes.
That was what he said. He said, who is subsidizing who? But his own government sustained it. The quantum of money that we paid for subsidy was even higher under him. Because yes, because under President Buhari, the NNPC told us that we were consuming between 50 to 60 million liters a day. That's a record. It wasn't that high before. So the more you consume, the greater the amount of money that you pay for subsidy. So this is the fact that the president who said who is subsidizing who acted like they didn't believe that subsidy existed, kept it
As if
on
it was a big scam.
for 5 years. 5 years, more than 5 years. So, and we have been saying, I've said repeatedly that we needed to do away with it. You are paying subsidy for petrol, you are paying, and a lot of it goes out of our country, smuggle it across the border.
Yeah.
We are providing cheap fuel to our neighbors.
Yeah, Republic of Benin.
Because a lot of those, you see tankers moving across our border to go and give these people around us. I've had people, including the vice president, saying, oh, they needed to remove subsidy because if they didn't do that, we could get to the point when we'll have scarcity again. Of course, I disagree. I disagree. And people shouldn't forget that around 2016 and even 2017, we had fuel scarcity, we had queues in our country. Under the administration. Because people tend to give the impression like, oh, fuel queues happened a long time ago. No, we are historians. We still remember when NNPC suddenly decided to go it alone, you know, we suffered because they were bringing in what was not enough. And they miscalculated because the thing began to taper down, supply began to taper down around October. And then it went on like that till December. You should have known, if you had foresight, you should have known that at Christmas time, the demand will be higher, you know. But they learned from their mistakes and they now jacked up the daily consumption rate. That's why we are where we are. If you say that unless you remove subsidy, then we run the risk of fuel queues. How about countries that do not even have the product at all? Do they all have fuel queues? The truth is, our country is broke. People don't like it when we say it, but we are broke.
Very broke.
Now we are at a point when other countries are reducing taxes, trying to make things less difficult for people. That's the time that we are increasing taxes all over the place. Because the alternative is to continue to borrow. The president is a very blunt person. He has already said it, that we cannot go and borrow money to pay subsidy. Because we'll get to that if we are not careful. We are not earning enough, and we are spending so much to service debts. So if you spend so much to service debt and you are not producing, you are also spending money, wasting money on refineries that are not producing. In 1 year, I think 2016, Kaduna refinery produced 50 million liters in a whole year. Refined 50 million liters in a whole year. That is just 1 day's consumption in our country. So do we need to keep that kind of refinery?
Moribund.
Just wasting money. They are even, the Nigerian refineries, those refineries, you know, they were built a long time ago. You know, some of them built as late as the 60s. What do you have? They are even antiquated to some extent. They are not modern anymore. People don't build refineries in that manner anymore.
And we keep spending money.
We keep spending money on them. The avenues through which our resources are leaking, they are just too much. If we spend about 100 and something billion on refineries,
that will give us what?
That are not giving us anything, not giving us value. So
how many million
where are you going to find money to finish critical road infrastructure? So this is the thing. Now we have reached that point. Now I said it a long time ago, that a time will come when we will have to bite the bullet. That we have to do away with this minimum, fuel subsidy.
Yeah.
We've now had to do it. They didn't have a choice.
It's very painful. But
where are they going to find money? The president confessed. He said, I will not go and borrow to pay subsidy.
GKB, was this the best option to opt for? This removal of subsidy?
No, this is not what we thought we are going to get. We were under the impression that the APC administration has a panacea, a solution to the perennial problem of fuel scarcity, which appear that they have done for the last 4 years or thereabouts. But there seems to be a case of putting the cart before the horse in case of removing the subsidy in its totality. For every student of history, I'm sure you are aware that we've gone down this road before many times. This was done during the Abacha years. That was why they created the PTS as an intervention agency to mitigate whatever they thought were the fallouts of the fuel increase. And now we are going through the same rigmarole again. And my fear is that in another 4 or 5 years, another government will come in and tell us there's an EBM subsidy somewhere that they too have to remove. That to me is why Nigerians are really angry. Nigerians understand that Nigeria is broke. Though we know that our elites have refused to step down on their extravagant lifestyle, this government has refused to even lead the charge to reduce our dependence on foreign goods, on extravagant goods, things that are not productive to the Nigerian economy. We keep importing everything. We produce nothing. And yet, in the last 5 years, we've had the agricultural revolution, we've closed the border. All these are supposed to encourage people to work. But so far, we are still borrowing grains from other countries. I think what the problem is mainly is this. This government has no choice but to remove subsidy. Fine, I agree. But they've not led by example in trying to be as prudent as the president was projected to be when he was coming in. That to me is why Nigerians are angry. They are still using everything that the Jonathan were using. They are still playing by the Jonathan book. And what I don't even like is the emotional blackmail that now you want to go back to queuing up. We voted for this government basically because we don't want to queue up again. And I thought they've succeeded in ensuring that that does not happen. Now they are telling us and blackmailing us to accept this on the face value when there is no sign either from the executive or the legislature or anybody that there is a desire to cut costs, to live according to our means. We still travel abroad in first class. We still do things we are not supposed to do. We still import things we do not need. And that to me is the danger that we face right now. I agree totally with Jide that yes, fine. There's a need for the subsidy to go because it's not really serving any purpose. And we are losing money. But it's not the only place where we are losing money. The Naira is falling every day because we keep importing things that are not important. If you remember Jide very well, when Nehru was in India as the Prime Minister in the 50s, it was a conscious effort to buy India, to rule India, to eat India. Today, India is the greatest ICT country in the world. You just have to bear the pains together. What people are tired of. No, to keep pushing the cost to them while they keep maintaining their own lifestyle. That to me is the problem.
Nigerians are saying that, look, yes, the timing of your subsidy, the timing for the removal of this subsidy, that the timing might be wrong. That's, again, you're not meant to, while you're removing subsidy, you're not meant to increase electricity tariff. That it's untenable. That it's just two critical sectors that we can't afford unnecessary increments.
Well, the electricity tariff should have been increased a long time ago.
That's July or
since
June.
No, even since Fashola's time as minister.
Yeah.
The truth is, what we have.
Why is it
President,
expedient, Babajide, that we increase this electricity tariff?
Because even the discos are complaining that it is not cost reflective.
What we charge?
Yes. They are not earning enough. Because a situation in which, I'm just using it as an illustration, a situation in which your production cost is 85 and the regulator says you should sell at 35.
So you'll be running at a loss.
Yes. Ask anybody, ask the discos.
So it won't be attractive.
And that is why a lot of the discos are cutting corners. People won't say this to you, but I'm saying it because I know it's the truth. They would rather cut corners. This is why they would rather give electricity to the people that they are sure will pay.
Some areas, they
Yes.
identify them now.
Oh, if they identify that, oh, you people, you are energy thieves in this area, they will not give you light.
Yes.
Because as much as we abuse them, we call them names, there are still many energy thieves in our country who will bypass the meter and go and take the public electricity direct. People are still doing it.
They have ladder, they take ladder across the streets.
And we have not been able to meter everyone. So that we have not been able to meter everyone, place into their hands. So they come up with what's it called, estimated billing. what are you going to do?
And that's another way of fleecing money.
Before you even go into this, you should be prepared. We borrowed our power roadmap from the Indians, but this was not the way they did it. We didn't copy it hook, line, and sinker. But that's where we borrowed it from. And it can succeed if we choose to do it well. Now, there's no point, say, allowing a cost regime, a tariff regime that does not pay the people who are producing the electricity. It does not. At the end of the day, they will cut corners, and they are cutting corners. So this is what is happening. So how much longer can we do that? We continue to pay them, give them bailouts after we sold those power assets to them. We are still giving them bailouts. We've spent more than 150 billion on bailouts to these people. From time to time, we'll come up again with a fresh one.
The business is not lucrative.
I'm not saying that they're not making money from it, but currently the tariff is not cost reflective. They cannot make money from this unless they find a way around the thing. That's why they're always asking government for assistance, one form of assistance, the other, because it's really not. I can't be generating electricity to you or selling electricity to you at 35 naira when it has cost me 80 or 85 to produce it. That is the thing. Even the people, you remember that we once interviewed the MD of
Nigerian transmission company.
Yes, and he admitted it, that was a problem, but that the government was supporting in its own way. No, and the president has said, I cannot continue to subsidize electricity, because that also all of those bailouts, all of those assistance to the discos and all that, they constitute paying subsidy in the real sense of the word, because you want them to continue to provide service. But at what cost are they providing it? So to keep them in business, government will continue to support them one way or another. That, in another way, is subsidy. It amounts to paying subsidy.
Okay, I think I have someone on the line. Ibrahim on the line.
Hello, sir.
Yes, thank you for joining us, Ibrahim.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
You are doing a very wonderful job.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
The question I want to ask is that in 2015, when Buhari came in, he removed fuel subsidy. Now, he removed fuel subsidy again. How many times is he removing fuel subsidy? This is the question I want to ask. Thank you, sir.
No, there has never been total deregulation. Increasing fuel prices is what we have been doing, so that you can you can reduce your subsidy bill, gradually. But total removal has never really happened, So, but we have reached that point now that a country that is broke, where is avenue for revenue, for generating revenue are already limited. They are shrinking. We are borrowing grains because COVID-19 really dealt with farmers. A lot of them, their farms are flooded. A lot of them couldn't go to farms during the. So now maize is extremely difficult to come by. Poultry business is in danger of dying. So when you have this kind of situation, you have to take some extreme measures. The president has seen that, look, these subsidies cannot be sustained. And one other way, we've always also had the dual exchange rate mechanism. I have appealed that we should do away with it. That has to happen, ultimately too. Let the currency float. If we had left it to float a long time ago, maybe by now we will have had some form of stability. But the situation in which you are deceiving yourself that this is your exchange rate, whereas the black market rate is the closest to reality, that has to stop. You go to South Africa, their currency is almost at all times stable. You can guess, but it's not the same thing with us. That's why, remember when we were quarreling with the British Airways people that why were they making our tickets costlier? Their ticket costlier in Nigeria than even Ghana. All this, they talked about this exchange rate volatility and all that. It could be 360 this morning. By the evening, it could be 380. So those are things that they wanted to find a way around, and then they said, okay, let's have. But in Ghana, in South Africa, in Botswana, in all of these countries, the exchange rate is stable.
GKB, a minister was quoted, I think the Minister of Information was quoted yesterday as saying that, relatively in some West African countries, that how much we sell our own fuel is about the cheapest around West African countries.
The minister is being clever by half, really. Because when you are doing parallel analysis and using Naira as a tool, then you know that the demand is being serious. In the first place, the exchange rate of the CB to the dollar is far higher than the exchange rate of Naira to the dollar. And the same thing applies to the French francs that they use in French West African countries. Yeah. So the comparison is not even really there. We just try to put the wool over our eyes. The reality we face, like Jide said, is that we signed away our sovereignty to the discourse in a manner of speaking. So that way, there is no way on this God's earth that we are going to escape them increasing tariffs every other year. The reality is what? The reality is the fact that we are in a bind. We have no money to subsidize anything. And because of that, we cannot pretend that we have money to do anything else. What we need to do now is bite the bullet. I thought that we would have beaten this bullet 5 years ago when Buhari came. Yeah. So that before when I thought, if we had done that at that point in time, by now things would have stabilized. But this was playing the political game and waiting for a second term. Yeah. And that's why we are in the quagmire that we are right now. Because if we had done this, the very moment he came in, like he promised, remove subsidy from oil, remove tariff from electricity, and allow market forces to determine the price of the Naira, by now, those extravagant lifestyle that we've been living, that they too have been copying from the Jonathan will have receded seriously and will have back to our reality. But I'm sure in the next 1-2 years, things will stabilize in such a manner that we'll start to get the gains of the pains of today. But it does not mitigate away the fact that Nigerians are hurting, and we are hurting badly. And we felt left down, and we felt disappointed, and we felt that the government has abandoned us. That may not be the case. I know this is a case of tough laws, but notwithstanding, there must have been things that they have rolled out before so that people can survive. Because somebody who has been jobless for 6 months, has now been increased his money, he has to pay more rent, he has to pay more for transportation.
Some people online today actually blamed the handlers of the federal government, the information managers, because a lot of Nigerians, they don't understand the dynamics of these things. All what they feel is that, look, it is under Buhari that fuel has gone to 162, that they've increased electricity tariff, and this man is bent in making us suffer. That's on the surface, that's what is on the streets.
The truth is, for people who are in pains,
they don't want to, you can't rationalize it in any way.
You want to explain it, some will not even listen. And on social media, only a fraction of them are interested in a healthy debate. When you tell people, for example, that, look, this removal of subsidy, yes, there's people who are just unnecessarily angry, and social media is the only place where they can vent their anger.
You wake up
using the cloak of anonymity, they can abuse anybody.
Honestly.
But if you ever come across some of the people who abuse you needlessly on social media, you see that they are even cowards. You see them, they won't be able to look into your eyes. I've encountered a few of them. Cowards. But on social media, they can abuse everybody, abuse the president, abuse everybody. But what we are saying is that if we remain disciplined and we are prudent, some of the money the money that we used to spend on subsidy, we can actually use it for critical infrastructure. If yes, so that is
Okay,
why
we'll come to that. Let's just
I am happy that at least that drain pipe, because whether we
It's
like
blocked.
it or not, so spending trillions on subsidy is a drain on our country. So that drain pipe is gone. We should be able to find some money to fix critical infrastructure, including roads, even the universities. Look at the agreement we signed since.
Okay.
That we will renovate the universities. We can't find enough money to do it, and the lecturers are still angry.
Okay, we'll check this break. When we come back, we'll discuss more. It's still Journalist Hangout. We'll be right back after this break. Stay with us. If you're just joining us, this is Journalist Hangout, your multi-award winning program, and we are reaching you live from TVC News. Now, the current strike by health workers has not gone down well with the federal government, as the National Association of Resident Doctors have been called upon to suspend the nationwide strike, as 6 out of the raised issues had been addressed. Minister of Labour and Employment, Chris Ngige, says the medical body needs to respect the law of Nigeria, as they have no reason to embark on any strike until all issues have been resolved, especially with the pending case at the National Industrial Court. But actually, this is actually a wrong time to go on strike. The wake of this COVID-19, and the figures are still coming up, and we've not in any way flattened the curve.
No.
In case
Even
anybody,
the NMA has said that the figures emanating from the LCDC do not reflect the real situation.
In case anybody wants to deceive us, we've not done enough tests.
And number of admitted people, number of admitted people for COVID is rising, especially in Abuja.
Yes.
If you check, you see it's rising. So what's responsible for that?
We've not conducted enough tests.
No.
So
we're
not in any way
I
flattened
believe that even
curve.
tests are still being suppressed. The
tests
same
it is?
governors who are deceiving themselves that that they do not have COVID in their state, a thoroughly unscientific thinking. They are still doing it because they don't want to spend money to save lives.
And they're spreading it.
Yeah, they don't care. They don't care whether people die or not. I lost a relation in Kogi State to COVID. I lost a relation last weekend. You know, so the governor still thinks, oh, it does not exist. And he cannot scientifically prove it that it does not exist in the state. It's not even commonsensically possible to stand on that, because you can't, as a state, single yourself out of Nigeria. I've seen, even in bigger countries, we don't have that situation. That someone will say, oh, in my state, we don't have COVID at all. It's not COVID. Then subject the people to test. Let an institution that can carry out tests be cited in your place. You are hostile. You don't want that to happen because you know your lives will be exposed. So this is what is happening.
So going back to the resident doctor strike, the timeliness, I don't know what they're asking from the federal government, the demand. I know that this might have lingered.
Some of those demands have lingered, as you know. But the one that they keep talking about is the hazard allowance of 5,000 naira as hazard allowance. They are saying, oh, there's no way that they can continue to take 5,000 naira as hazard allowance because the dangers they are subjected to, dangers of possible dangers arising from infection by hepatitis B, be contracting hepatitis B, hepatitis C, and even this COVID at this time. Those dangers are huge. And they are saying, no, it's not 5,000 that you should pay for such. But
doctors too, they've recorded some deaths.
Yeah, a lot of medical workers, not just doctors alone, nurses. So we've lost dozens of them, you know. Many people have been infected. Hundreds have been infected. The truth is, we need to look at that health sector. We need a national conversation. I don't even want a conversation led by the National Assembly. I want a presidential conversation that will lead to something on the health sector, on governance issues in the health sector, on the even welfare of doctors. If your younger brother graduates today, you know, from the medical school, and he goes for NYC, post NYC is going to be called medical officer 2. That's what they call him. At that level, if he manages to run away abroad to get a job, goes to UK, he's going to be paid between 2,000 to 2,500 pounds. By the time taxes are taken away, maybe we'll come away with between 1,600 to 1,800 pounds. With that amount, if he has a clinic, he can employ 4 of his colleagues from the salary that they will be paying him, from his wages there. He can employ 4 of his colleagues, and the professor will train him. That's why young people, even during COVID, if not for immigration issues, a lot of them wanted to run away because countries were looking for doctors.
Even the United States, they said go to the nearest embassy.
Go to the it's just the immigration issues that block some of them. And we are saying that our doctor-to-patient ratio is abysmal, and we are allowing this to go on. We are not bothered about it. When we were growing up, I used to say that we have many Indians in Nigeria, some of them teaching, some of them are doctors here. Do you still see them? Do you still see them? Do you still see those Indians the way we used to see them in those schools? They will flog us, teach us mathematics and all those difficult subjects. Then they are no longer here. We must find a way to stop the exodus of doctors from our country. The health sector, the entire health sector needs thorough retooling, thorough resetting.
Even not after this COVID, we've not seen the need to take a look at that sector.
That's what I'm already looking at a holistic look at that sector. Not just because some of these issues that they are talking about will still recur in the years to come. Things like condition of service and all that, those issues will still come up. Those doctors are saying, even for training, in some of those medical colleges where they are training people, even for mental health issues and all that, reagents are not available. We have to find a way to put all of these things in the budget so that the resident doctors have no cause to complain. Because they need all of these tools for their training. They need these things. We must insert it in the budget. I told someone that anytime you see that NMA is quiet during a strike by resident doctors, it means that all of them are in agreement that the strike should go on. And what are we seeing? That's why I talked about governance issues. If resident doctors are on strike, the consultants should work. But what we are seeing is a situation in which once the resident doctors go on strike, everybody runs away. They will now be found in their respective
private hospitals.
Yes. Who is making people account for this? If you have someone now who is injured in an accident, you rush them to hospital, they say doctors are not available just because resident doctors are on strike. Why are we doing this to ourselves? And when that person dies, we will say, oh, it's because God permitted it. Oh, Amuwa Olone.
Needless death.
No, needless death. We need to do something about these things. Why should this kind of things be happening in our country?
DKB, sometimes I look at it and these doctors, shouldn't they be looking at once in a while the Hippocratic oaths they've taken and look at the timing of their strike? And this is a very, very bad time to go on strike.
Well, they look at the oaths and they look at their stomach. And the stomach will always win. Because they're human beings like you and I, and some of them are working 20, 24, 21 hours per day. Personally, I thought with the advent of the pandemic, there will be a national conversation on our health infrastructure, especially the moribund National Health Insurance Scheme that was supposed to take care of things like this, as well as the insurance fund, I think, that was asked by companies to be paid 1% or 0.1% of profit to a particular fund so that all teaching hospitals can get all these reagents and things that are needed. But in the usual Nigerian fashion, they put some funny guy there who stole all the money. I think what we need to do now is use this opportunity to revamp totally from primary healthcare to tertiary healthcare, our infrastructure. Our doctors are going to leave once they are able to fly out. Countries are begging for doctors every day. And luckily, the Minister for Labour, who is a doctor himself, has told us, and I'm very happy, and that we have enough doctors, and they can become tailors, and they can become broadcasters. So I'm not afraid, because I believe in the game. The people of that stature, whenever they talk, I agree with them. And I know he must know something that all of us do not know, that we are losing doctors by the boatloads. And if you are not careful, in the next 2-3 years, we will run out of resident doctors, and will be left with either interns or professors. And then we have to start bringing back retired professors in the 80s to come and treat common malaria. It's a tragedy of the highest proportion that we are looking at.
GKB said people of that stature. Whenever they
stature may not necessarily be talking about
his height.
the physical. No, it may not be talking about.
Okay, GKB stature.
And he's a doctor himself.
Stature means stature can mean your background.
Okay. Not the physical appearance. Because when you talk about stature and
I
think about
your background.
Okay.
So it's not the only person in government who is short. So I'm not sure that was what.
That's what I meant. I was talking about his stature, his background as a doctor.
Yes.
As a well-known medical doctor. That's what the point
standing.
Okay.
His background. That's what he's talking about. Well, when was the last time he even practiced medicine? So it's a long time ago. Since when he was here, when he was working here in Lagos, once lived at 1004. He was a staff of the Federal Ministry of Health. When was the last time? Because I do not expect, if you are coming straight from the system, he would not say such unprintable things about his colleagues. You understand? If he was coming straight from the system and he had plans to return to the system, we've seen the NBA discipline a former minister, Ondoka. They disciplined him. So if you are coming from the system and you have plans to return to the system, you will not speak in disparaging tones against your colleagues and saying, look, we have more than enough. We don't have more than enough.
If you know the number of doctors that are doing conversion courses to go to Australia, to
you
go
don't
to
blame
UK,
them, because
to
even
go to Saudi Arabia,
apart from the federal government that is doing a good job of employing doctors, and a state like Lagos that is clearly ahead of others when it comes to the health sector.
Clearly.
Many of the states are not even employing doctors. There was an advocacy that the NMA did that showed that Zamfara State had only 5 doctors in its employment, including the head of medical services.
5?
Yes. Yes, I don't know if it's exaggerated, but NMA came up with that. So if you see, we need more doctors, especially in tertiary
health institutions.
Yes, we need more doctors. And to imagine that consultants alone can do the job when these people are on strike is a waste of time. They are just like in other professions. Somebody will be removing the boats. Removes the boats. When he removes the boats, he shows the Oga that, oh, this is what we saw. Like a foreman, all of this, we are talking about workmen. That's the way it is in the health sector too. Because the Oga who is there, those younger doctors know they don't have his experience. He has to come and they need to explain to this was what we did, and he will step in and fix the problem. So we can't afford to have, it's like a relay. We can't continue to have these resident doctors going on strike all the time, and then we rely on consultants. No, they can't do it alone. It's just not possible.
All right, moving on now. Finally, it's going to be a joyful resumption for Ogun State primary and secondary school pupils after the long break caused by COVID-19 pandemic. Governor Dapo Abiodun has declared automatic promotion for the students in the state except tertiary institutions. Students in the state are set to resume on the 21st of September with school timetable for various classes in order to avoid crowding and ensure adherence to COVID-19 staggered safety guidance. What this is saying, Babajide, is that automatically the governor has agreed that they've lost a year.
Yeah.
And they have automatic promotion.
Because there is no way the school calendar is already affected. When you tell people to resume in September, they usually resume in September to start another academic year. So how do you do it? They come in September. Are you going to say that that September they should continue second term work? You know? It can't work.
Okay, we'll take this breather. When we come back, we'll talk more. So, journalist Hangout, please stay with us. Welcome back. So, journalist Hangout, and we are looking at the school resumption in Ogun State. I think they've worked out modalities on how they are going to make sure the students...
There's no crowding.
Okay.
The state government, through the CPS, Kunle Shomoni, have announced that JS1 to 3 students would be in class from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. every day for the academic work. Then the senior classes will be 12 noon to 3 p.m. You know? So
12 noon to 3 p.m.
Yes. Then technical and vocational classes, those ones will have their academic work between 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. What they are trying to do is to ensure that there is no crowding. It means that those classes, the students can be redistributed into more classes. You know, we have a situation in which there are up to 100 in one class. And one of the reasons teachers were complaining was that, look, given the situation, given the fact that some of us have up to 170, 80 students in one class, it would be dangerous to allow students to resume at this time. Now, by coming up with this idea, which was similar to what we had in the 70s, you know, it means that you will not have overcrowded classes because one class can spill into another class because those classrooms will be vacated since all of the students are not in school at the same time. You get the point that I'm making? You can split up a class into 2 or 3. Once you create the physical distancing steps, once you set up the physical distancing protocol, it then means that the classroom will be able to take less people than it used to take. So the remainder can be spilled into other classes. And you will succeed with all of that plan because the senior classes, for example, are not going to be in school the same time with the junior classes. Yes. So once they leave at 8 a.m. and these ones resume at 12 noon to close at 3, they will have the whole of the school to themselves. So it's a very good initiative, and I think that other states should copy
this model.
Yes, I think it can work. I really think it can work, and kudos to Governor Dapo Abiodun for coming up with this idea.
GKB, what do you make of this model?
Well, I agree totally that this is a novel idea to make sure that there are no overcrowding in schools. Those of us in my generation, of course, are familiar with the shift system that Latifa Conde came and abolished in Lagos in the early 80s. So I am sure it will work. Basically to protect our kids from mingling too much in such a manner that they will be exposed in such a manner that will affect them. I agree totally with the system, and I agree also that we've lost a year. There's nothing we can do. All they can do now is try to abridge those courses and see what they can do through summer or through holidays to see whether they can bring them up to par. But after that, there's nothing else to can do. This is the best solution for a bad situation.
So I think we ultimately we're moving on with our lives, and
yes, but we have to find a way around it.
Yes,
we just have to find a way around it.
It's not as if this thing is going to. There's a time that this thing will be eradicated.
Nobody knows yet. Nobody knows yet, and we are not
We've not gotten vaccine.
We have
for
not
it.
defeated it. We have not defeated it. People are still dying. Just that a lot of these things don't get reported. And for people who fool themselves by saying, no, it does not exist, their prayer should be, let it not get to me. Because when it gets to you, you will be looking around for where you can get cure. And it's something that can seize a person in one day and take that person's life that same day. So it's a very dangerous disease, and we must not drop our guards. I think
And
that
kudos to the churches. I went to my church for the first time after the pandemic. Gospel Apostolic Church, that's Ikeja Parish there. I discovered that all the protocols, we had to wash our hands.
Yes.
And wash
it's
our
the same
hands,
thing in
do
my own
everything.
backstreet church
They
too.
take,
in Akute.
they take our temperature before you enter the church.
Yes.
And the social distancing was so respected.
Yes.
And the temperature level is going to be written in one attendance sheet with your name.
Yes.
I said,
we
to go?
We are doing that in my church too.
okay.
And the pastor in charge of the zone moved around
To inspect.
to be sure that everyone complies, and a lot of them too are complying with the time, but some are not complying. So it is the job of the leaders of the church to ensure that, look, if they say you should leave in just under 2 hours, you have no reason to not
The
leave.
service was between 7 a.m. to 8:30.
Yes, so
by 8:30
that is an area some pastors are still
done.
preaching that. They are preaching that because they don't know how to abridge their preaching. They've been used to long, boring sermons. So they don't know how to abridge their sermons, so they are exceeding the time limit. This is an area that I think that they need to work on. But in terms of the spacing of people seated in the church, the physical distancing measures that they've taken, top notch. And then you cannot go in unless you have your face mask on, although once they get inside they really don't put it on anymore. Or some will leave their noses jutting out and they say they put on face mask. That's not a face mask. It's like sagging. If you say you are putting on a face mask and you leave your nose open,
And your mouth.
that means you are sagging. That means you know how odd it is for an adult, maybe of our age, to be sagging. People will wonder what has gone
Yeah,
gone
not
wrong
a
with you.
Malian.
Okay. Those ones, they say they don't use belts. So that is the thing. We can do better. We can do better, really.
GKP on your party shots.
Yeah, just to correct what was in fact when I said I believe the minister has of the stature. I'm talking about the stature as a former governor as well as a medical
His
doctor.
background, yes, I've explained that. You don't need to. I've helped you to deal with the attempt at mischief. I've helped you to deal with that. So you are in safe hands.
Osiare Ono Kakanfo. That is Gani Kayode Balogun GKB. Thank you for being part of this edition. And the master himself, Babajide Kolade Otitoji. Thank you for your contribution. And that's our offering today. Join us tomorrow for another episode of the program. Now, what journalists hang out on our platforms showing on the screen. On YouTube, youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. Our feedback channel is Journalist Hangout at tvcnews.tv. I'm Ayodele Uzubaku. Bye for now, and God bless Nigeria.